If you're still struggling with picking the very best matches for over 1.5 goals in football, then this video will be an absolute game changer for you. If you manage to crack this market, you can easily start winning 80 to 90% of your football bets. Anyway, in this video, we're going to cover everything from league selection to in-play optimization step by step. So, go put the kettle on and let's dive right in. Okay, so let's start with phase 1, which is league selection. This is where the hidden edge in the market really begins, and it's a concept that is almost entirely overlooked by the general public. What this phase is, quite simply, is the process of choosing the right environment where the bookmakers aren't as aggressive or precise with their pricing. Why this matters is that in massive leagues like the Premier League or the Champions League, the markets are heavily modeled and the public money is so high that the prices are often crushed. I used to fall into this trap constantly when I first started out, just betting on the Super Sunday kickoff just because it was on the telly. I was ignoring the value and just betting at kickoff in markets where there was zero margin for error, and my bankroll suffered for it. How we approach this correctly is by looking for leagues with a very specific, moderate goal profile. We aren't looking for the highest scoring leagues in the world. We want leagues where the average goals per game sit between 2.1 and 2.6. We are looking for a historical over 1.5 hit rate of 72% or higher. But here's the professional secret. We want an over 2.5 hit rate that is actually below 55%. This is because we want steady scoring leagues like Brazil Serie A, Argentina or Colombia, rather than high scoring chaos. These leagues often struggle for 3 or more goals, which keeps the public away, but they comfortably and consistently clear the 1.5 line. By avoiding the glamorous leagues where the pricing is sharpened aggressively, we find quiet markets where the mechanical pricing models often leave a bit of value on the table. By the way, if you like videos like this and want to see more on this subject, remember to click the like button. It tells YouTube to send you more of this kind of content. And while you are there, you should hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss a system or strategy video. Now this is important as we move into phase 2, which is the XG qualification rule. This phase represents our specific match validation. Why it matters is that even in a good league, not every match is structurally sound for 2 goals. What most people do wrong here is they see one big favorite and assume they will do all the attacking work, but that increases the fragility of your position. If that one team has an off day or their star striker is quiet, your bet is in trouble because the underdog isn't expected to contribute anything to the scoreline. How we approach this correctly is by looking for symmetry in the attack rather than asymmetry. We want to see that both teams have a projected XG of at least 1.30, or at the very least a combined total of 2.6. This matters because when both sides are capable of contributing to the goal expectation, the probability distribution widens. You aren't relying on a single team shutout to ruin your trade. The objective here isn't to predict a 4-0 blowout. It is simply confirming that 2 goals are structurally likely to occur because of how these 2 specific teams interact on the pitch. When both sides project above that 1.20 or 1.30 mark, the single team shutdown risk is significantly reduced, making your trade much more resilient. By the way guys, if you want to skip all that manual arithmetic and find the best over 1.5 goal bets instantly, the Statto app is a brilliant research accelerator. Instead of spending your afternoon hunting through spreadsheets and calculating averages for 20 different leagues, you simply press the prompt and let the artificial intelligence do the work for you. It automates the entire research process, allowing you to generate well-researched opportunities instantly, which saves you an incredible amount of time compared to manual research. It is all about time saving and simplicity. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. That leads us neatly to phase 3, which is the price filter. This is arguably the most critical part of the entire framework because it dictates your long-term mathematical survival as a sports investor. What this phase is the discipline to refuse prices that offer no mathematical edge. Why this matters is that most casual bettors will take over 1.5 at odds like 1.2 or 1.3 just because they think it's a banker that can't lose. But at 1.3, the market is implying an 83% probability. You need an incredible hit rate just to break even at those prices, which is almost impossible to sustain once variance kicks in. How we approach this correctly is by targeting a price range between 1.4 and 1.7. If you can secure odds of 1.5, your implied probability is only 66.7%. If your data-led selection process from the previous phases shows a true probability of 75 to 80%, you have found a genuine value gap. This is where those moderate scoring leagues we discussed in phase 1 are so powerful, because the public bettors prefer betting on over 2.5 or both teams to score accumulators. The over 1.5 market becomes a secondary market. Secondary markets often hold micro inefficiencies that you can exploit if you have the patience to avoid the crushed prices of the high-profile matches. The next thing we have to look at is phase 4, which is our rejection criteria. This phase is all about professional discipline and knowing when to walk away from a game that looks good on paper but fails our safety checks. Why it matters is that over 1.5 goals fails most often when one side contributes absolutely nothing to the match tempo. I learned this the hard way, and every time I've ignored this rule and tried to chase a game with an ultra-defensive profile just because the historical averages looked okay, I ended up with a total wipeout. This is where most people slip up, and I was no different. I used to let my ego tell me that the goals have to come, but a professional knows that some tactical setups are just goal killers. How we approach this correctly is by being robotic with our no list. We reject any match where one team averages under 0.8 goals scored or fewer than 3 shots on target per match. We also steer clear if the combined clean sheet rate is above 40%. You should also be very wary of relegation 6-pointers, where the fear of losing outweighs the desire to attack, or high-pressure knockout games like cup finals or cagey first legs. We are looking for symmetry in the attacking profiles. If the game feels like it's going to be a tactical battle where one goal might win it, it doesn't matter what the XG says. You protect your capital and move on to a match with better scoring DNA. On top of that, we move into phase 5, which is Inplay Optimization. This is where your edge truly compounds. What this phase is the tactical patience to wait for the market to overreact to a scoreless start. Why it matters is that the market often panics if there isn't a goal in the first 15 or 20 minutes, causing the price for over 1.5 to inflate significantly. You are getting the same structural expectation you had pre-match, but at a much higher price and a lower implied probability. How we approach this correctly is by waiting until that 20-minute mark. If the score is still 0-0, we check the live stats. If the combined XG at that point is already at 0.6 or higher, the total shots are at least 4, and the game tempo looks strong, we enter. This is a classic case of time decay mispricing. The market assumes that every minute without a goal makes a goal less likely, but we know that second halves statistically produce more goals than the first half. By having the discipline to wait for those first 20 minutes, you are essentially buying a higher value ticket for the same outcome. It's about letting the market come to you rather than chasing a bad price at kickoff. Now, the final phase is understanding strike rate and variance reality. This phase is the psychological anchor that allows you to stick to the process during the tough times. Why it matters is that even with a perfect selection process, variance is a mathematical certainty. What most people do wrong is they lose 3 or 4 bets in a row and assume the strategy is broken, causing them to start overexposing themselves or abandoning their price filters in an emotional panic. How we approach this correctly is by accepting that an 80% strike rate still allows for clusters of losses. This is a probability compression strategy, not a never lose system. Your edge is realized over hundreds of bets, not a single weekend. Properly selected over 1.5 bets in these moderate leagues can hit between 75 and 82% long term. If you lose a few on the bounce, you don't change the filters, you trust the math. You are operating in quiet markets where value lives because you aren't chasing the headlines. By keeping it simple, respecting your rejection rules, and applying price discipline, you turn over 1.5 goals into one of the smoothest probability plays in football. And like I said earlier, guys, hours of manual research are no longer necessary if you want to professionalize your approach. The Statto app is the ultimate tool for finding the best over 1.5 goal bets that fit the specific requirements of this framework. It provides incredible speed and efficiency, allowing you to identify those 8 out of 10 matches and quiet league opportunities in seconds so you can focus on the execution and management of your trades. It is a total research accelerator that handles the heavy lifting of data analysis. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get started. It is a serious professional advantage and a total game changer for anyone who wants to stop gambling and start investing with a real edge. I really hope this deep dive into picking the best over 1.5 goal matches has shown you that long-term success isn't about the glamour of big leagues. It's about structural probability and price. When you stop chasing the headlines and start following a rule-based framework focused on moderate leagues and price discipline, you're on the path to becoming a profitable sports investor. Thank you so much for watching and for your time today. Remember to hit that like button. It tells YouTube to show you more of this kind of content. As always, the learning shouldn't stop here. There is actually another video on the screen right now that I think you'll find very useful if you want to keep building your knowledge and sharpening your edge. Go ahead and click that, and I'll see you over there.